Before we dive in, viewer discretion is advised. This content is for entertainment purposes.
It looked like a calm interview at first, but within seconds, the entire studio felt the tension explode live on air. What happens when one of hip-hop's most unpredictable stars sits down at America's most unfiltered daytime table? And the conversation takes a turn no one in the studio is ready for. The lights inside the studio of The View were warmer than usual that morning. The audience buzzed with anticipation, a different kind of electricity humming in the air. It wasn't political tension. It wasn't a controversial headline. It was curiosity. Because sitting at the far end of the table, dressed in muted earth tones and dark shades that reflected the stage lights, was Travis Scott. He didn't fidget. He didn't smile widely for the cameras. He simply observed. Across from him, leaning slightly forward with her signature sharp gaze and folded cue cards, was Joy Behar. Joy had been doing this for decades. She had sparred with politicians, actors, moguls. She had seen tempers flare and egos crack. But today, something felt different. Whoopi welcomed viewers in her calm, grounded tone. Sunny offered a poised nod. Alyssa adjusted her posture. The segment began lightly. New music, creative inspiration, fatherhood, fashion ventures. Travis answered softly, carefully. His words were measured, almost minimal. Joy tilted her head. "You're a man of few words today," she said with a playful smirk. The audience chuckled. Travis shrugged slightly. "I just let the music talk," he replied. And for a moment, it seemed like that would be the rhythm of the segment. Polite questions, reserved answers. But then Joy flipped a cue card. "You've had, let's call it a complicated public journey," she began, her tone shifting from playful to probing. "A lot of people still have strong feelings. Do you ever feel responsible for the culture that surrounds your shows?" The temperature changed. Not drastically. Not at first. But the air thickened. Travis removed his sunglasses slowly. The cameras zoomed in almost instinctively. "Responsible how?" he asked. Joy leaned in. "Responsible for the energy. For what happens when that energy gets out of control." A murmur rolled through the audience, subtle, but present. Whoopi shifted in her seat, sensing the edge forming. Travis's jaw tightened, barely noticeable unless you were looking for it. "My shows are about connection," he said. "They're about feeling something real." Joy didn't back down. But when real turns dangerous. There it was. The line that separated interview from interrogation. The crowd went silent. Sunny interjected gently. "I think what Joy is asking is about accountability in entertainment spaces." But Travis raised his hand slightly, not aggressively, just enough to signal he wasn't finished. "I care about my fans," he said, voice steady but lower now. "More than people know." Joy's eyes didn't soften. "Then why do so many critics say the opposite?" Gasps. Audible this time. The camera cut briefly to Whoopi, whose expression had shifted from neutral host to cautious mediator. Travis leaned back in his chair, exhaling through his nose. "Critics don't know me." Joy replied almost instantly, "But the public only knows what they see." And that hit. You could feel it in the studio, that invisible snap in the atmosphere when two strong personalities stop circling and start colliding. The audience members in the front row exchanged glances. Some nodded subtly in agreement with Joy. Others looked at Travis, almost protective. The narrative had changed. This wasn't about album releases anymore. Travis leaned forward now, elbows on the table. "It's easy to sit here and talk about energy and culture from a chair," he said, his tone still controlled but edged with steel. "It's different when you're building something from the ground up." Joy raised an eyebrow. "Are you saying we don't understand?" "I'm saying," he replied, pausing just long enough to make the silence heavy, "that headlines don't tell the full story." The audience clapped softly at that, uncertain, but supportive. Joy didn't clap. She folded her hands instead. "Then tell us the story." It was direct, almost daring. The cameras caught Travis blinking once, twice, calculating. The studio lights reflected in his eyes now that the sunglasses were gone. He looked younger in that moment, less guarded, but also more exposed. "There's always a villain in a story," he said slowly. "It's easier that way." Joy responded, "And you feel you've been made into one?" A beat. Yes. That single word lingered longer than any sentence before it. Whoopi finally stepped in. "I think what people want to know," she said carefully, "is whether you feel misunderstood or misrepresented." Travis nodded once. "Both." The audience applauded more confidently this time. A ripple of empathy moved through the room. But Joy wasn't finished. Misunderstood is one thing, she said. Misrepresented suggests someone else is to blame. The tension rose again, sharper now. Travis's expression hardened slightly. Sometimes the narrative gets written before you ever speak. And today, Joy pressed, is this your chance to rewrite it? The question hung there, heavy, loaded, almost theatrical. The camera zoomed in on Travis's face. His fingers tapped once against the tabletop. You can't rewrite something people don't want to change, he replied. Another wave of murmurs. Sunny looked between them, sensing the friction. Alyssa leaned in slightly, intrigued. Whoopi's lips pressed into a thoughtful line. Joy smiled, but it wasn't playful anymore. Well, she said, we're listening. It sounded like an invitation, but it felt like a challenge. And in that moment, the studio wasn't just watching an interview. They were witnessing a standoff. Two different worlds. Two different generations. Two different definitions of responsibility. The cameras captured every breath, every micro-expression, every flicker of emotion. The conversation had crossed a line, not into chaos, not yet, but into something far more volatile. Truth. And as Travis straightened in his seat, eyes locked forward, you could feel it. Whatever he was about to say next would either calm the storm or ignite it. The silence after his last words didn't feel accidental. It felt staged by fate itself. You could almost hear the collective inhale of the studio audience as Travis's gaze remained fixed on Joy. Not angry, not explosive, but intense in a way that made everyone sit straighter in their seats. Joy adjusted her glasses slightly. You said narratives get written before you speak, she began again, her voice calmer now but still firm. But people don't invent everything out of thin air. The words were measured. But sharp. Travis didn't flinch. No, he replied. They don't, but they choose what to magnify. Sunny leaned in gently. Travis, do you understand why some parents feel fear when they hear your name connected to chaos? That question landed differently. It wasn't accusatory. It was emotional. And the audience responded to that shift, a few soft nods, murmurs of agreement. Travis swallowed, his composure tightening just slightly. Fear is real, he said quietly. But so is growth. Joy's eyebrow lifted again. Growth suggests something needed fixing. The tension rose another notch. Travis looked directly at her now. Everyone grows. Joy tilted her head. But not everyone's growth comes after tragedy. The word tragedy echoed through the studio like a bell. Whoopi stepped in again, sensing the conversation teetering on the edge. Let's not turn this into a courtroom, she said calmly. We're here to talk about where things stand now. But Joy wasn't ready to retreat. Where things stand now, she repeated, eyes still on Travis, is that many people question whether artists should be more vocal about setting boundaries at their events. There it was. The heart of it. Travis's jaw tightened again, just slightly. I've always told my fans to look out for each other, he said. My shows are about unity. Joy responded instantly. Unity doesn't prevent stampedes. The audience gasped, louder this time. Sunny placed a hand lightly on the table, as if grounding the moment. Alyssa shifted in her chair, eyes darting between them. Travis leaned forward again, elbows on the table, his voice now firmer. You think I wanted anything bad to happen? He asked. It wasn't shouted. It wasn't explosive. It was wounded. That shift caught everyone off guard. Joy paused for the first time. I don't think anyone thinks you wanted it, she said carefully. But wanting and preventing are different. The camera cut to Whoopi, whose face had softened. The studio lights felt hotter now, almost oppressive. Travis exhaled slowly. You can't control thousands of people with a snap of your fingers. No, Joy agreed. But you can influence them. The word influence hung in the air like smoke. The audience was divided now. Some clapped quietly at Joy's point. Others looked visibly uncomfortable. Travis ran a hand over his face, breaking eye contact for a split second. You're talking about influence like it's a switch, he said. Like I press a button and everyone reacts exactly how I say. Joy crossed her arms slightly. You don't believe you have that kind of power. Travis hesitated. That hesitation spoke volumes. I believe music moves people, he admitted. Joy leaned in. Exactly. There it was, the collision. Two interpretations of the same truth. Music moves people. But where does movement end, and responsibility begin? Sunny jumped in before the tension could spiral further. Let's talk about what you've changed since then, she said, offering an off-ramp. Security protocols, messaging, things you've implemented. Travis nodded once, grateful for the pivot. We've restructured everything, he said. Bigger teams, clearer communication, more coordination with local authorities. It's not the same setup. Joy listened, but her expression didn't soften. And do you think that's enough? She asked. The audience groaned lightly, some amused, some tense. Travis looked at her directly again. It's a start. Joy shook her head slightly. For some families, a start feels late. The words weren't loud, but they were heavy, the kind of heavy that settles in your chest. Whoopi finally leaned forward decisively. Joy, she said gently but firmly, I think what we're trying to do here is understand where he stands now. Joy held her gaze for a moment. Then she nodded slightly, but she didn't look convinced. Travis sensed that. You keep saying families, he said quietly. Like I'm not someone's family too. That shifted everything. The audience fell completely silent. My daughter, he continued, voice lower now, more personal, is going to grow up seeing headlines. You think that doesn't matter to me? The vulnerability cracked through the armor. Joy blinked. Sunny's expression softened immediately. Whoopi nodded slowly. Of course it matters, Joy said, but her tone had changed, less sharp, more reflective. But it matters to them too, she added gently. Travis nodded once. I know. That admission landed like a fragile truce. For a moment, it seemed like the storm might calm. But then Joy asked one final question. If you could say one thing directly to those families watching right now, no PR team, no rehearsed line, what would you say? The audience held its breath. Travis didn't answer immediately. He didn't rush. He didn't deflect. He stared at the table, fingers intertwined, jaw tight. And for the first time since the segment began, he looked less like a global superstar, and more like a man carrying something heavy. When he finally lifted his head, his eyes were glassy under the studio lights. I'd say I'm sorry for their pain, he said slowly. And I wake up thinking about it. The room shifted, not with applause, but with something quieter. Understanding. Joy studied him carefully. And is that enough? She asked, not aggressively this time, but honestly. Travis didn't respond right away, because maybe there wasn't an answer that would satisfy everyone. The silence stretched long enough to feel intentional. And just as Whoopi prepared to transition the conversation forward, you could sense it. The emotional temperature had changed. But the clash, it wasn't over. It was only evolving. The silence after his apology didn't feel like relief. It felt like suspension. Like the entire studio was hanging between two outcomes, forgiveness or further fire. Travis kept his hands clasped on the table, knuckles faintly white under the bright studio lights. Joy studied him in a way that wasn't combative anymore. It was analytical, almost searching. The audience sat unusually still, as if even shifting in their seats might disturb something fragile. Whoopi cleared her throat gently. I think what people at home are trying to understand, she said in her grounded tone, is whether you see yourself differently now than you did before. That question wasn't about blame. It was about identity. Travis leaned back slowly, exhaling through his nose. Yeah, he said. I do. Joy didn't hesitate. How? The directness returned, not sharp like before, but persistent. Travis ran his hand across his chin. I used to think passion was enough. That intensity was part of the experience. But intensity without structure, that's something I've had to rethink. A murmur rippled through the audience. That was the first time he'd used language that felt reflective instead of defensive. Sunny nodded. That's growth, she said softly. Joy tilted her head. Or realization. The subtle difference wasn't lost on anyone. Travis glanced at her again. Maybe both. There was something steadier about him now. Not relaxed, but anchored. Joy shifted in her chair. You built your brand on chaos energy, she said. Rage culture. That was the aesthetic. The word aesthetic carried weight. Travis didn't smile this time. It was never about chaos. It was about release. Joy leaned forward slightly. Release can become recklessness. The audience reacted again. Scattered claps, scattered sighs. Alyssa finally spoke up. I think what Joy's circling is whether artists are responsible for how their messaging is interpreted. Travis nodded slowly. Artists are responsible for what they say. Not for every way it's twisted. Joy interjected. But when thousands of people chant your lyrics back at you, that's not twisting. That's influence. The tension crept back in, not explosive, but simmering. Travis's jaw tightened again, but his tone stayed level. Influence isn't control. Joy fired back gently but firmly. It's leadership. That word hit differently. Leadership. The audience leaned in again. Travis paused. And for a moment, you could see him processing it, not rejecting it, not accepting it, weighing it. Leadership implies I asked for that role, he said quietly. Joy didn't blink. Fame assigns it. The room went silent again. Whoopi watched the exchange carefully, her expression thoughtful. Sunny folded her hands together. Alyssa looked between them like she was witnessing something bigger than an interview, a generational debate unfolding live. Travis leaned forward once more, voice lower. You think I wake up thinking, how can I lead today? He asked. No. I wake up thinking about creating, about providing for my family, about making something that moves people. Joy's voice softened slightly. But when you move people, they follow. The words weren't accusatory anymore. They were observational. The audience's energy shifted again. Less tension, more contemplation. Travis looked down briefly, then back up. So what are you saying? He asked. That artists shouldn't push boundaries. Joy shook her head. I'm saying boundaries exist for a reason. Sunny added gently. And sometimes tragedy forces us to see where they should have been clearer. That line settled heavily across the table. Travis inhaled deeply. You think I don't replay everything? He asked quietly. It wasn't a challenge this time. It was confession. The audience reacted with a collective softness, a few visible nods, someone whispering while under their breath. Joy studied him again. Do you? She asked. Travis's voice dropped. Every day. The vulnerability was no longer subtle. It was present. Real. Whoopi leaned in. Regret can either harden you or change you, she said. Which did it do? Travis didn't answer immediately. The camera zoomed in slightly, catching the tension in his brow. Both, he admitted. That honesty shifted the air again. Joy exhaled slowly. I don't think people want to see you destroyed, she said. They want to see accountability. And I'm standing here, Travis replied. Aren't I? The audience clapped at that, louder than before. But Joy raised her hand slightly, calming the applause. Standing here is part of it, she said. But the real test is what happens when the cameras turn off. That line cut deep, because it wasn't about performance anymore. It was about permanence. Travis leaned back again, eyes narrowing slightly, not in anger, but in focus. You think this is performance? He asked. Joy held his gaze. I think public apologies can be. Gasps rippled through the room again. Sunny immediately interjected. Joy. But Travis didn't let it escalate. No, he said, holding up a hand gently. It's fair. The audience quieted. If you don't know me, he continued, you don't know what's real. Joy nodded slightly. That's true. The tension wasn't hostile now. It was philosophical. Two people from different worlds, trying to define responsibility in real time. Alyssa asked softly, so where does healing start? That question landed differently. Travis looked at her, then at the audience. Healing starts with listening, he said. Joy responded almost immediately. Are you listening now? Yes, he said. It was simple, direct, and for the first time since the segment began, there was no edge to his voice. Just sincerity. The audience applauded again, not explosive, but steady. Whoopi smiled faintly. That's a start, she said. But even as the applause faded, you could feel something unresolved lingering in the air. Because this wasn't a clean redemption arc. It wasn't a villain monologue or a hero's triumph. It was messy, human, and just as the producers signaled there were only a few minutes left in the segment, Joy leaned forward one last time. There's one more thing, she said, and the tone in her voice made it clear. The calm was about to be tested again. There's one more thing. The words didn't sound aggressive. They sounded deliberate. The audience, which had just begun to relax into the rhythm of reflection, stiffened again. Even Travis's posture shifted, not defensive, but alert. He'd learned by now that when Joy prefaced a sentence like that, it meant the real weight was coming. Joy rested her hands on the table, fingers interlocked. A lot of people, she began slowly, feel like celebrities only fully engage with accountability when their brand is at risk. The word brand echoed louder than she intended. A low murmur rippled through the studio. Travis's eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, but in focus. You think that's why I'm here? He asked. Joy didn't flinch. I think timing matters. Whoopi shifted in her chair. Sunny inhaled quietly. Alyssa's gaze darted between them. Travis leaned forward again, voice calm but firmer now. I'm here because I was invited. Joy responded without hesitation. And because you have something to promote. There it was. The line between art and optics. The audience reacted audibly, a mix of oh and scattered claps. Travis gave a faint, almost incredulous smile. So I can't promote my work and face hard questions at the same time. Joy tilted her head. You can. But don't pretend the timing isn't convenient. That word, convenient, carried an implication that cut deep. Travis sat back slowly. You think pain has a schedule? He asked quietly. The audience went silent again. Joy paused for half a second. No, she said. But prestos do. That sharpness returned, not cruel, but unfiltered. Sunny jumped in, trying to balance the scale. Artists live in public cycles, she said carefully. Music, interviews, appearances, it's all intertwined. Travis nodded once at Sunny, appreciating the nuance. Exactly. But Joy wasn't finished. My concern, she continued, is when vulnerability becomes part of the rollout. Gasps. Even Whoopi raised her eyebrows at that one. Travis stared at Joy for a long moment. You think I rehearsed this? He asked, voice low. Joy met his gaze. I think media training exists. A scattered nervous laugh came from somewhere in the audience. Travis exhaled sharply through his nose, shaking his head slightly. You don't get it. Joy leaned forward. Then help me get it. The air thickened again. You think I want to sit here and relive the worst chapter of my life? He asked, the calm in his voice now threaded with something raw. Joy didn't respond immediately. That chapter, she said carefully, is the worst chapter of other people's lives too. And that was the pivot. Not brand. Not PR. People. The room felt smaller somehow. Travis's jaw tightened. But this time it wasn't defensive. It was emotional restraint. I know that, he said quietly. Do you? Joy pressed. Sunny visibly winced at the intensity. Travis leaned forward suddenly, both hands flat on the table now. Not aggressive, but grounded. Yes, he said firmly. I do. The conviction in his voice startled the audience into silence. You think I haven't sat with families, he continued. You think I haven't questioned everything? Every stage design, every decision, every second. Joy held his gaze, but her expression softened slightly. Then say that, she said. I am saying it, he replied. No, Joy countered, her tone still steady but less sharp. Say it without protecting yourself. That hit deeper than anything before. Without protecting yourself. The phrase lingered. Travis blinked slowly. His composure wavered for the first time all morning, not dramatically, but enough that the cameras caught it. Protection is instinct, he said quietly. When the whole world points at you, you build armor. Joy nodded slightly. And armor keeps people out. The studio was silent enough to hear someone shift in their seat. Travis's voice dropped lower. Sometimes armor is the only way you survive. That wasn't a headline answer. It wasn't promotional. It was personal. Whoopi leaned forward gently. But survival isn't the same as healing, she said. That line reframed everything. Travis looked at her, really looked at her, as if considering something beyond the segment. Joy spoke again, softer now. The question isn't whether you hurt too, she said. It's whether you're willing to carry the weight publicly without deflecting it. The tension wasn't fiery anymore. It was heavy. Travis swallowed. I'll carry it, he said. Joy studied him. Even when it costs you. He didn't hesitate this time. Yes. The audience erupted, not with wild applause, but with something steadier. Respect. Maybe even relief. But Joy held up her hand again, quieting them. Words are easy in a studio, she said gently. They are harder in action. Travis nodded. Then watch me. That line sent a ripple through the crowd. Sunny smiled faintly. Alyssa exhaled as if she'd been holding her breath for 10 minutes straight. But even as the applause swelled, there was still a flicker of tension between Travis and Joy. Not hostile, not unresolved, but unfinished. Joy leaned back slightly now, studying him with a different expression than when the segment began. Less adversarial. More contemplative. You're not who I expected, she admitted quietly. Travis gave the faintest smile. Neither are you. A small ripple of laughter broke the intensity. Whoopi finally stepped in with a measured tone. Conversations like this, she said, aren't about winning. They are about understanding. The audience applauded that, louder this time. But as the clapping faded and the producers signaled there was barely a minute left before commercial break, Joy asked one final question. Not sharp, not confrontational, just direct. When you walk off this stage today, she said, what changes? The cameras zoomed in one last time. The studio lights felt brighter. The room waited. And Travis opened his mouth to answer, knowing whatever he said next wouldn't just define the segment. It would define the story. For a second, the studio lights seemed almost blinding. When you walk off this stage today, Joy had asked, her voice steady, almost gentle now, what changes? Travis didn't look at the audience. He didn't look at the cameras. He looked at the table, at his own reflection faintly visible in the polished surface, as if measuring the weight of every word before releasing it. What changes, he said slowly, is that I stop letting other people define what accountability looks like for me, and I start showing it. The audience was silent, not skeptical, not applauding, listening. He continued, voice firmer now. I can't erase anything. I can't undo pain. But I can build differently. I can lead differently. I can show up differently. The word lead hung there, the very word Joy had challenged him with earlier. Joy noticed. Her eyes narrowed slightly, not in doubt, but in analysis. You're embracing that word now, she asked. Travis nodded once. Yeah, I am. Sunny smiled faintly. Alyssa leaned back, almost relieved. Whoopi gave a small, approving nod. Joy tilted her head. Leadership means scrutiny, she said. I'm already under it, Travis replied. A ripple of soft laughter moved through the crowd, tension easing for the first time all hour. But Joy wasn't smiling yet. It also means people won't forget, she added. Travis didn't hesitate. They shouldn't. That answer landed. Hard. And honest. The audience applauded, louder this time, sustained. Not celebratory, but acknowledging something real had just happened. Whoopi placed her hands flat on the table. Growth is uncomfortable, she said. For everyone involved. Travis nodded. Joy finally allowed herself the smallest smile. Well, she said, I hope what you're saying today isn't just a good interview. It's not, he replied. There was no edge in his voice anymore. No defensiveness. Just resolve. The producer's voice echoed faintly in the host's earpieces. 30 seconds. Whoopi turned to the camera. We appreciate you coming and having this conversation, she said. Travis stood slowly as the applause swelled again. But this time, it wasn't divided. It wasn't tense. It was layered. Some people clapping out of respect, some out of cautious optimism, some still uncertain but acknowledging the moment. Joy stood too. For a brief second, the two of them faced each other. No smirks. No raised eyebrows. Just eye contact. You handled yourself, Joy said quietly, off mic but close enough for the boom to catch it. You pushed, Travis replied. That's my job. He gave a faint nod. Then I guess we both did ours. And with that, the segment cut to commercial. But the story didn't stop there. Because within minutes, clips from The View were already circulating online. Short edits. Sharp captions. Joy Behar grills Travis Scott. Travis Scott gets emotional live. Awkward silence stuns studio. The internet did what it always does. It chose sides. Some praised Joy Behar for refusing to soften her questions. Finally, one post read, someone asking what needed to be asked. Others defended Travis Scott fiercely. He showed growth. Another comment declared, people just don't want to see it. Hashtags trended within hours. Reaction channels dissected every micro-expression. Body language experts slowed down the moment Travis removed his sunglasses. Headlines debated whether Joy had gone too far, or not far enough. But beyond the noise, something quieter was happening. Clips of his line, they shouldn't forget, began circulating independently. Without commentary. Without dramatic music. Just the words. And that line shifted the narrative slightly. Not completely. Not universally. But enough. Backstage, Travis sat in a private green room, staring at his phone as notifications flooded in. His team hovered nearby, analyzing metrics, sentiment, trending keywords. He wasn't looking at the numbers. He was replaying the conversation in his mind. Joy's face when she said, say it without protecting yourself. Whoopi's line about survival not being healing. The audience's silence. The applause. Meanwhile, at the table, Joy removed her earpiece slowly. Sunny leaned toward her. You think it landed? She asked quietly. Joy exhaled. I think it was honest. Whoopi added, that's all you can ask for. By evening, major outlets had picked up the story. Debate panels discussed whether the exchange marked a turning point in his public image. Some commentators called it strategic. Others called it sincere. But the most powerful reactions weren't from pundits. They were from viewers. Parents. Fans. Critics. Supporters. People writing paragraphs instead of punchlines. Some saying they still weren't ready to forgive. Others saying they saw something different in him. And that was the aftermath. Not a clean redemption. Not a public takedown. But a moment. Raw. Unfiltered. Human. The kind of moment daytime television doesn't always allow. But when it happens, it lingers. Because clashes aren't always about shouting. Sometimes they're about refusing to look away. As the clip crossed millions of views overnight, one thing became clear. This wasn't just another celebrity interview. It was a confrontation between perception and personhood. Between leadership and blame. Between armor and accountability. And now we want to hear from you. Did Joy push too hard? Or did Travis finally say what needed to be said?